Hi, I'm Luna, and this is our continuation of Intro to Yoga. In this series, the second kind of group of the series, second half of the series, we're getting into the deeper dimensions of a class that we did our last class. So this is going to be the same sequence, which is having all of the different kinds of poses within one class. Our last class, we focused on finding the base, the foundation. And now we're going to be exploring the building blocks, finding the alignment within each pose, which is a very important thing to be aware of in the practice. I would say it's one of the most important things. It's to make sure that we don't aggravate the body and we actually use the body as a support system to benefit strength and flexibility and mobility. So this is a really big key of the practice, and I'm excited to explore that in this class with you today. And just like our last class of this series, I'd recommend 2 blocks, especially if you have tighter hamstrings, just so you've got a little bit more space. And then we're going to get started sitting. And go ahead and cross your right shin in front of your left shin. You're welcome to sit on a block or a blanket or whatever might feel more comfortable to you when you're sitting on the ground, like if your spine wants to kind of round. And this is even part of the class today. So your spine wants to round, right? And your knees kind of want to lift up. And that just means that you have tight hamstrings and hips and low back stuff. We want to really find the length in the spine. So this is having to do with the alignment. So notice how my spine is curved now. We want to find the spine like one long line, straight down and straight up. So if sitting on a block would assist you in lifting and lengthening through your spine, then do that. That's great, because we want to find that space in the spine, ultimately. It's less about, your hips being on the floor and more about how can you lengthen your spine. So once you find that length of your spine, go ahead and just pause for a moment. You can have your hands on your knees, and let's try to cross towards the middle of your shins and have a little flexion of your feet. So your ankles are pretty much underneath your knees in that general area, but in that direction. And then just close your eyes for a moment. And just start with this moment of stillness. There's a little flexion of your feet, so you're active there. We're not collapsing in the ankles. And then just visualize, bring your awareness to your spine. And notice if you're kind of slumping or hunching, which the body loves to do when we're not being super mindful with it. So right now, totally bringing your awareness to your spine and feel like we did in our last practice. Can you feel the grounding of your sitting bones evenly down to the floor, like you're pushing down energetically? And then notice how that's going to help you create a little bit more awareness and lengthen your spine. So we're lifting straight up through the crown of your head. The shoulders are soft down the back body, and you want your shoulders pretty much stacking over your hips. So notice if they're leaning forward or back. Again, we want to find that alignment. You want to think of it like building blocks or pillars of a building. We want to find that alignment for optimal support in space. And with your eyes closed and your focus inward, just pause for a moment and observe how you feel right now. You might notice like these little muscles along your spine and your core are waking up, and that's a good thing. It might not, be so easy to sit like this, because we very, very rarely sit on the ground like this in our adult lives. But this is helping you wake up all the muscles along your spine, your core, to encourage a proper posture, to encourage the healthy spine of lengthening and feeling supported. So even if you don't feel so comfortable right now, the practice is also about, moving through those uncomfortable places in order to actually get more comfortable, waking your body up. Connect to your breath, long inhales, full exhales. We'll get deeper into the breath in the next couple of classes, but you want to stay connected to it. Breathing in and out of your nose, maybe a soft little whisper, a little restriction across the back of your throat. So using the breath to keep the focus inward onto yourself. All right, and then flutter the eyes open. And then reach your arms tall to the ceiling. Inhaling. So again, we're finding that alignment. The fingertips are in alignment with your shoulder heads or in that direction. It's okay if they're slightly forward. If you've got tighter shoulders, no worries. But they're in the alignment of your shoulder heads. And then exhale, slow motion, twist over to the right. And let's just pause for a moment. Stay for your inhale. Try to continue lifting up through the crown of the head, through the fingertips. And then exhale, try to twist deeper. And then bring your left hand to your right knee. Your right hand back behind you on the floor. I'll just move around so you can see what's going on. You want your right wrist stacked pretty much underneath your right elbow. So you're already finding that alignment right there. And that'll encourage you to find more support. So notice how I'm pushing down through my right hand to push my chest towards my front body, to instead of rounding the spine, lengthening the spine, lifting up. And then you can continue to exhale, revolve a little bit deeper from that length you just created. And then inhale, slowly come back through center. You're just going to bring your finger pads in front of you. Maybe you stay right here. Maybe begin to walk your hands forward into a gentle forward fold over your legs. Keep the flexion of your feet happening. Let your head hang heavy. And we're just here for another breath or so. Breathing into the low back and the outer hips. And then you'll inhale, lift yourself on up. So just reach your legs in front of you. You can give them a little wiggle to let go of the ankles, and then we'll cross the left shin in front of the right shin. Try to cross towards the middle of your shins. Flex through your feet, ankles pretty much underneath the knees. We're trying to get them there. And then you'll go ahead and inhale, reach your arms tall to the ceiling, lift up. And then exhale, slow motion, twist over to the left, just from your core muscles, from that internal lever. And then stay for a long inhale, get a little taller. Stay for your exhale, waking up the muscles along the spine, the core to twist. And then lower your right hand to your left knee for support. Your left hand back behind you, like finger pads. Palm is fine too, but finger pads gives you a little bit more space. And then we're here, inhale, lengthening through the crown of the head a little bit more. And then exhale, revolving into the twist a little bit deeper. Shoulders roll down the back. And then inhale, come back through center, a little flexion of your feet. Finger pads in front of you. Maybe this is it. This is great. Maybe you exhale, begin to walk your hands forward, just to the degree that's comfortable in your body. And breathing into the outer hips and breathing into the low back. And then you'll inhale, lift yourself on up. You can reach your legs forward in space again. Maybe give them a little wiggle to let go. And then we're going to find extended child's pose. So swivel your legs back behind you. Let's have the knees hip distance apart. And then the big toe ball mounds touching. And then rest your hips heavy onto your heels. And then with your hips heavy down towards your heels, walk your hands forward a little bit more. So you're really stretching your body long from your hips to your fingertips. And then just look at your hands and have your hands be shoulder distance apart. So that's, again, the alignment, right? So we're extending straight forward in space. The fingers are spreading wide like we learned in our last class, the foundation, the base. You're pressing down through your palms here. And just breathing into the back body. Couple of breaths here in extended child's pose. And your arms are straight and strong. There's no bending of the elbows right now. You're hugging your outer upper arms in, so your arms are straight. And then inhale, lift yourself on up onto all fours. And let's find tabletop position. So we'll have to drag your palms back a little bit. And then find, like the building blocks or the pillars, you want your shoulders right above your wrists. The fingers are spreading wide, root down. The knees are hip distance apart. And then you're on the tops of your feet back behind you. Remember, like we did in our last practice, hug the outer ankles in, spread the toes. So we're active back there. And then we're just going to do cat-cow. So inhale, pull the chest forward and up, the tailbone lifts up. And then exhale, round, chin to your chest, tailbone to the floor, back body to the ceiling. And do that a couple more rounds. Inhale, pulls the chest forward. Try to keep your shoulders over your wrist. So notice if you're leaning forward or back. And then exhale, round, chin to your chest, tailbone to the floor. Another one of those. Inhale, pull the chest forward and up. And then exhale, rounds into the back body. Great. And then inhale, come to a flat back. You'll have to move your hands forward like an inch or two. We're going to find downward facing dog. For those of you who live in a pretty flexible, bendy bodies, you can keep your hands shoulder distance, which is classic. But I will say, if you have tighter, broader shoulders, then I would actually recommend moving your hands a little bit wider than hip distance apart. And then when you're spreading your fingers, then shoulder distance, pardon. When you're spreading your fingers, have your pointer fingers pointing straight forward to the front of the room. So there's already a little bit of an opening of the hands, which will ultimately help you find more space in your shoulders, okay? And then tuck your toes, your feet are hip distance. We'll lift the hips up and back in downward facing dog. So hands, classically shoulder distance, maybe a little wider, and then feet hip distance apart. And the toes are just a little bit in, heels are just a little bit out. And then go ahead and kind of walk your dog. You can bend one knee, move the opposite heel towards the floor, bend the opposite knee, that heel towards the floor. So you're just kind of exploring and waking your body up. And then pause for a moment here in down dog, and let's actually bend the knees a good amount. Really press down through your palms. So you're lifting your hips up and back. So notice again, are you rounding your spine? Are you overly arching your spine? Can you try to find one long line from the heel of your hand to your sitting bones? And then from your sitting bones down towards your heels. And there's, of course, totally okay to have a little bend of the knees, especially if you have tighter hamstrings. That's actually a great idea. We really want to find this one long line of your spine. And then inhale, reach your right leg up and back. See how the right heel is in alignment with your right hip, the right shoulder, the right heel of your hand. And then exhale, knee to your nose, step your right foot where your right thumb is. And then tap your left knee down. And then again, finding the alignment. So almost always when the front knee is bent, we want to track it right over the ankle. Almost always. There's always exceptions. But most of the time, you want to just make sure that the knee isn't passing the ankle, because that's going to bring too much weight on that joint. So you want to be super mindful of the knee, truly right above the ankle. The back knee is down on the ground. And then your hips are sinking low towards the floor. When you're ready, sweep your arms up. Anjaneyasana, our little low lunge. So again, right knee tracking right over the right ankle. And then also be mindful, like, are you leaning forward? Are you like leaning back? Can you feel like when we were sitting and the arms were reaching up, can you feel the hips in alignment with your shoulders, in alignment with your fingertips? So you've got this one kind of long line lifting straight up. And then we're here for a couple of long breaths in your low lunge, feeling the right knee tracking over the ankle. And then at the same time, reaching your fingertips up towards the ceiling. And then lower your hands to the floor. This is when your hands can be on blocks if you have tighter hamstrings, so that we can tuck the back toes under if they're not already, and move both of your legs in the direction of straight and fold over your right leg. So even here, you can kind of walk your hands back so that your shoulder heads are stacking right over your wrists, right? So that'll just give you way more space and way more support, finding that alignment. And then also, notice what's going on with your hips. Your right hip kind of wants to wrap forward in space. Can you energetically wrap your outer right hip back so it's in alignment with your left hip? One hip isn't forward toward the front of the mat more. And then inhale, just lengthen through the crown of your head. So keep that alignment, right? The length of your spine like we've been doing. And then exhale, you're going to fold over your right leg. And yeah, maybe round a smidge, but you really do want to try to keep the lengthening of your spine, especially in forward folds. That's going to actually be what helps you stretch the back of your body. And then inhale, come back up halfway, bend your right knee. Let's root the palms to the floor instead of blocks. And then exhale, step back, finding plank pose. So inhale in plank pose and find the alignment of your shoulder head stacking right over your wrists. Your feet are hip distance, your hands are shoulder distance. And then you also want to feel the alignment of your heels in alignment with your hips, in alignment with your shoulders. So notice if your hips are lifting up or lowering down. You want that to find that one long line, right? On your next inhale, shift your weight forward, tap your knees down. And then exhale, slow motion, bend your elbows straight back. So chaturanga, this is a big alignment thing. You want your elbows stacking right over your wrists. You have to lean forward a good amount. You've got one long line still from your knees to your hips to your shoulders, and then lower yourself all the way down. Kind of like you're lowering your body like a plank of wood all the way down at the same time. And then have your hands where they are. Uncurl your toes, ground down through all 10 toes. The feet are hip distance, right? Engage your legs. And then the wrists, see how the wrists are right underneath the elbows. That's, again, an alignment cue. And then you're just going to inhale, pull your chest forward and up. Keep your legs strong. Tailbone is long. And then exhale, lower yourself down. And then do that twice more. Inhale, low cobra. Notice your elbows want to splay out. Hug them in so they stay right on top of your wrists. And then exhale, lowers. And then one more. Inhale, lift yourself on up into your cobra, little back bend of your upper back. And then exhale, lower yourself back down. Inhale, tabletop position. And then exhale, downward facing dog. Just stay for a long inhale. Lifting your hips up and back, long exhale. And then inhale, lift your left leg up and back. We're working towards one long line from your left heel, your left hip, your left wrist. And then exhale, knee to nose. Step your left foot where your left thumb is. The left knee is tracking right over your left ankle. So you can always adjust your stance until you find that alignment. And then inhale, reach your arms forward and up. And just notice if you're leaning forward or leaning back, you want the left knee tracking, but then at the same time, one long line here from the hips to the shoulders to the fingertips. And then we're here for a couple of long breaths in your low lunge, maybe feeling a bit of a stretch in the front of the right thigh. One more inhale, and then exhale, release your hands to the floor or those blocks. Tuck your back toes under if they're not already, and then move both of your legs towards straight and fold forward. Keep the right heel lifted, keep your long stance, and then just drag your hands back, and maybe they're on blocks, so drag your blocks back so your shoulders are right above your wrists. And then inhale, lengthen through the crown of your head and wrap your outer left hip back so it stays in alignment with your right hip. And then exhale, fold over your left leg. So the alignment of the hips, that kind of like wrapping of the outer hip back, it's ultimately going to encourage the low back to lengthen, which is what's so wonderful about forward folds, creating space in the low back that tends to get compressed when we sit a lot. And then inhale, bend your left knee, root your palms to the floor instead of blocks. Exhale, step back, plank pose. Inhale and plank pose. Feel the alignment of your shoulders. Feel the alignment of your whole body. Lean forward, tap the knees down. Exhale, chaturanga, lean forward, bend your elbows so the elbows are right above your wrists as you lower all the way down. Uncurl your toes. This time we're going to bring the hands wide. You want the elbows pretty much stacking over the wrists, and you want your wrists in alignment with your elbows, in alignment with your shoulder head, so they're straight out, right? That alignment is going to help us find more support. Engage your legs, press through your feet. Inhale, press down and roll yourself up into your back bend, opening your chest. The height is up to you. Feel it out. Exhale, roll down, and then two more. Inhale, rolls up, and exhale, rolls down. One more. Inhale, rolls up, and exhale, rolls back down. Palms next to your ribs. Inhale, tabletop position, and then exhale, downward facing dog. Be in down dog for another breath or so, making sure you've got the alignment of your hands and your feet and your spine. And then bring your gaze forward, inhaling, and just step your feet forward as you exhale. Have your feet hip distance apart to start off with. Toes a little bit in, heels a little bit out. And then bend your knees a good amount and just hang upside down. Give yourself a moment to pause and soften, stretching into the back of your body. Maybe you clasp opposite elbows for a little bit more weight. If that feels good, you can do a little sway from side to side. Maybe you clasp opposite forearm in front if you're doing that. You could also interlace the fingers behind your low back, right thumb on top, moving your hands away from your hips. And then if you're doing that, interlace left thumb on top, move your hands away from your hips. A little bit of a shoulder opener, chest opener, and also working on opening the hamstrings, the calves, really the whole back body. And then slowly release your hands towards the floor. Bend your knees a good amount. Inhale, come up halfway. Either your fingertips are on the floor or blocks underneath your shoulder heads, or your hands are on your shins. Whatever's going to encourage you to lengthen your spine, right? So there's no rounding, there's no overly arching. You want to find one long line, the alignment of your spine, and then exhale, fold back over your legs. Inhale, reach your arms all the way on up. Palms touch, gaze is up. And exhale, palms together in front of the heart. You can keep your feet hip distance, or maybe you bring your feet together. Either way is fine. Feet hip distance it just gives you a little bit more space and support, but sometimes people feel like the feet together actually feels more supportive because you're more compact. So it's really up to you what feels better for you. But in Tadasana, we want to find that alignment, right? So notice if you're kind of leaning forward or leaning back, what's going on with your spine. So ultimately, we want to find those building blocks, the pillars. You want to feel the alignment of the knees over the ankles, the hips over the knees, the shoulders over the hips, the crown of the head resting on top right of the middle of your shoulders. So being mindful also with your neck, right? Sometimes we're on the computers a lot, we're like this, and then our bodies just like turn into this. So can you feel truly one long line of energy through your whole body, from the heel of the feet all the way through the crown of your head? You're straight up. And it might feel odd for you at first to like really feel that out. You can even like stand in front of a mirror and like look to the side, notice your tendencies of your own body, and then being mindful of what you need to do to support the body and find that alignment. All right, inhale, reach your arms up. Again, in alignment with your shoulder heads. Exhale, fold forward, bend your knees, lean forward as you fold. And then inhale, come on up halfway, getting long in your spine. Exhale, step back into plank pose. Inhale and plank. Lean forward. Maybe your knees top down. Maybe they don't. When you lean forward, you make sure that the exhale bends the elbows. The elbows are right above your wrists. Your shoulder heads stop in alignment with your elbows. And then inhale, you'll move into your back bend, maybe cobra. Maybe move into upward facing dog by straightening your arms. Your shoulder heads are right above your wrists at alignment. Your legs are super strong. The chest is pulling forward and up. And then exhale, downward facing dog. And then we're hanging out in down dog for a couple of long breaths. We're going to do that twice more. That's our sun salutation A. It helps to warm up the body, finding space, but also finding strength, waking up the body in all different ways. One more breath in down dog, and then inhale, gaze forward, and exhale, step, step. Or maybe you hop your feet to your hands. Inhale, come up halfway, lengthening your spine, and then exhale, fold forward. And then inhale, reach your arms all the way on up. Palms touch, gaze is up. Exhale, palms together in front of the heart. Two more. Inhale, arms lift tall. Your legs are strong underneath you. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, come up halfway, getting long in your spine. Exhale, step back into plank pose. Use your inhale to lean forward. Maybe the knees tap down, maybe they don't. Chaturanga, elbows over your wrist, shoulder heads in alignment with your elbows. And then inhale is your back bend. Engage your legs, shoulders right above your wrists. And then exhale, downward facing dog. Couple of long breaths in down dog. And then inhale, gaze forward. Exhale, step, step, step forward. Inhale, come up halfway, lengthening. Exhale, folding forward. Inhale, arms lift all the way on up. Exhale, palms together in front of the heart. Last round of this. Inhale, arms lifting. Exhale, forward folding. Come up halfway as you inhale. Step back into plank pose as you exhale. Inhale, lean forward, maybe the knees tap down. Chaturanga, elbows over your wrist. That alignment of your whole body, right? And then inhale is your back bend. Shoulders stacking over your wrist, chest opening. And exhale, downward facing dog. All right, moving into some standing poses. Inhale, lift your right leg up and back. Exhale, step your right foot where the right thumb is. Okay, so already find the right knee tracking over your right ankle. And then we're grounding through the outer edge of your left foot. You might need to step your left foot forward like an inch to be able to ground through the outer edge of your foot. And then I will say in Warrior One, that's where we're headed, your heels are in alignment with one another classically, which is like if an imaginary line down your mat was like drawn, both of your heels would touch that same line, right? But especially if you're newer to the practice or if balance is a thing for you, you can actually step your left foot to the left an inch or two, and that will give you more space and more stability. So either way is fine. But let's inhale, reach your arms all the way on up, Warrior One. So either one with the foot, you're just not crossing your legs. It's either heel to heel or a little bit wider. I like to call it like you're either on a tightrope or on narrow railroad tracks with your feet. And then you're bending your front knee a lot so that the knee tracks over the ankle. And then the arms are lifting straight up. And then in these kind of lunging poses, we are moving in the direction of a 90-degree bend. Doesn't have to be all the way there, but we're going in that direction so that your hip is now in alignment with your knee. So maybe that will work for you today, and maybe that won't, but that is the direction we're going towards, so you know. Your back leg is really strong. And in Warrior One, we're moving the pelvis, the hips towards alignment with one another. They'll never get there, but we are moving in that direction. So the left hip is wrapping forward, the right hip is wrapping back. All right, one more breath. The right knee is over your ankle. The arms are lifting straight up. You've got that alignment of the hips to the shoulders to the fingertips. And then exhale, open into Warrior Two. You're going to heel, toe, the right foot over to the left. So now your alignment of your feet are your front heel, the right heel in alignment with your left arch. Heeled arch alignment. And then the right toes are straight forward. The back foot is a bit of an angle. That'll help you wrap your left outer hip forward just a little. Let it be. And then again, we're moving in the direction of that 90-degree bend. Maybe it doesn't go all the way there today, but we know that's moving in the direction. And then we're here for a couple of breaths. Feeling, this is another key here, like notice if we tend to like reach forward a lot in Warrior Two. Can you feel your shoulders over your hips? So the stacking of your joints, right? And then you're reaching your fingertips. Your wrists are in alignment with your shoulder heads. Is that alignment happening? And then lifting through the crown of your head. Just notice a big thing is what's happening with your front knee. Is it caving in? Is it caving out? You really want the knee right above your ankle. All right, inhale, straighten your front leg. Lean forward, reach your right fingertips forward. And then exhale, lower your right hand down. Maybe it's on your shin. And some of you might actually bring your right hand on a block on the outside of your shin. I like using blocks. It's like less weight that your body has to carry. So it's a little bit less work. But if you want more work, hand on your shin is fine. Either way, you want your wrist right underneath your shoulder head, right? If you're on your shin or if you're on your block. Either way, you still feel the alignment of your arm, right? And then your right leg is moving towards straight, but it doesn't have to be all the way straight. You are going in that direction. And then your left arm is lifting straight up towards the ceiling. And then you've got this alignment here, right? From your right wrist to your right shoulder, to your left fingertips. You've got one long line of energy happening. Also, you want to think about the alignment of your spine. So, like curving your head down towards the floor and rounding. You want to feel one long line from the tailbone to the crown of your head. There's this energetic lengthening, and that'll actually be in our next class. And then we're here for a couple of long breaths. Shoulders roll down the back. You're finding the alignment of the spine, of the arms. From the strength of your legs and your core, inhale, lift yourself back up, Warrior Two, bending the front knee. Make sure you find the alignment of the knee over the ankle. And then lower your right forearm to your thigh, right where, like pretty much right where your knee is. Not on your knee, but right near it. And then flip your left palm forward and reach your left fingertips forward. So we're not just like collapsing into this. You're pressing down through your right forearm to find space in the right side of your waist, find space in your shoulders. And then can you feel that one long line, the alignment of your left heel, to your left fingertips. There's no weird things happening. You're one straight line. And then being mindful of the right knee right above your right ankle. And then that alignment of your right hip in alignment with your right knee in that direction. And then we're here for a couple of breaths. It's not also only about how low your hip can get to get into the knee, but it's more about like, is your right hip like swaying out to the right wall? Can it be in alignment with your right knee, straight forward in space? Like you can think of like if you were like leaning against a wall behind you. So everything would be on that one same plane. And then lower your palms to the floor. Lovely work. Make sure your shoulders are over your wrists as you find plank pose, inhaling, and then exhale, downward facing dog. Woo. Just give yourself a long inhale. Full exhale, we'll switch. Inhale, lift your left leg up and back. And then exhale, step your left foot where your left thumb is and ground through the outer right foot. And then you choose, right? There's always different variations within each pose. So it can really work for everyone, every body. So maybe you've got heel to heel, if that feels good. Or maybe you've got a little bit more space between your heels. So you're walking on those narrow railroad tracks. Once you figure that out, reach your arms up. And then bend your front knee a lot. So we're moving towards that 90-degree bend, left knee over the left ankle. Notice as your left hip is kind of hiking out to the left. like we just did in that extended side angle pose, can your hip be in alignment with your knee so you're straight forward in space? Back leg stays strong. And then your arms are lifting up. Notice if you're kind of leaning forward or like arching your back. Can you find that one long line from your hips to your shoulders to your fingertips? One more inhale. And then exhale, open into warrior two, making your adjustments with your feet. So your front heel is now in alignment with your back arch. You're bending the front knee so it tracks right over your ankle. Your hips are moving in the direction of the floor, so there may be in alignment with your left knee, maybe. The arms are wide. Now notice, are you leaning forward? Are you leaning back? Can you have your shoulders right above your hips? Can you have your wrists in alignment with your shoulder heads? And then we're hanging out here for another breath or so, feeling the alignment of all of the joints. Okay, inhale, straighten your front leg. Reach your left fingertips forward. Exhale, lower your left hand down, maybe onto your shin, maybe onto your block on the outside of your shin. And the right arm ends up lifting straight up towards the ceiling. So notice, like if your arm is reaching back or reaching forward, right? You truly want to find that alignment straight up. And being mindful of what's happening with your spine. I notice a lot of a curving of the spine here. So you're really trying to reach through the crown of your head. And then even here, like all these poses, feel as if you were like gently leaning back towards a wall behind you. So your whole body is on the same plane. And then inhale, lift yourself back up. Exhale, bend your front knee, warrior two. And then lower your left forearm to your left thigh. Flip your right palm forward and reach your right fingertips forward. So feeling the alignment of the left knee over your left ankle, your left shoulder head over your left elbow. And that is a continuation, right, of your shin. And then the hips low in alignment with the left knee in that direction. And then that one long line of the right heel to your right fingertips. Noticing what's going on with this arm, right? Trying to find this one long line. All right, lower your palms to the floor. Move the block away if you have it. Plank pose as you inhale. Find the alignment of the shoulders over the wrists, your hips in alignment with your shoulders and your heels. And then exhale, downward facing dog. Long inhale and a full exhale. And then child's pose. Tap your knees down, hips to your heels, forehead to the floor. Just be here for a couple of long breaths. And then roll yourself on up to sitting. And then swivel your legs forward in space. We're going to roll onto our backs. Once you get onto your backs, you can gently hug your knees into your chest, maybe a little rock from side to side to massage your low back to the floor. And then keep your knees bent. Bring the soles of your feet to the floor. And then we want to find the alignment of your knees tracking right above your ankles. So the feet are hip distance apart. The toes are just a little bit in, heels a little bit out. So that's the alignment of the feet. We've talked about it more in this series in general, but right, the reason why we've got the toes in, the heels out most of the time is so that the middle of your foot is straight forward in space. So finding that alignment too, right? We're not doing pivoting in or pivoting out. Most of the time when that foot is forward, you really want truly the foot forward, which means the toes are slightly in, heels slightly out. Okay, and then once you find the alignment of the knees over the ankles, and I like to sometimes use the cue or figure out myself, maybe my fingertips are grazing my heels, but everyone has different body measurements, so that's not necessarily like the best cue for everyone. So you just kind of feel it out, maybe even look down and make sure your knees are right over your ankles. Okay, you're going to press your feet down, lift your hips up. Option to keep your palms rooted. Another option is to interlace your fingers underneath you if that's accessible to you, and then roll to the outer upper arms to open your chest a little bit more. And then we're here for a couple of long breaths in bridge pose. It's a back bend. Notice if you're like looking to one side or the other side, you want to keep your face straight up towards the ceiling. So the alignment of your neck is there. And one more breath. Notice, are the knees caving in? Are they buckling open? Are the toes pivoting in? So being really mindful of the foot straight forward, the knees staying, tracking over your ankles. And then release the bind and lower yourself down and pause. So the alignment is really important to make sure that we don't aggravate the body, we don't injure the body, that we really use the body like a support system to benefit the body. Okay, one more of those. Sometimes the feet kind of do their own thing. So be mindful of that. You might need to readjust your feet and make sure the feet are straight forward, the knees are over the ankles. We press the feet down, we lift the hips up. Maybe you root your palms to the floor. Maybe you interlace your fingers, left thumb on top, and then roll to the outer upper arms and open your chest and you're in your back bend. It's hard because you can't see the feet, but we're working towards a place where we're just aware of what's happening, right? So even though you can't see them, can you feel? Are you rolling to the outer foot like we did in our class earlier before this one? The foundation, right? Can you press down through the whole foot? And that should be able to help you to make sure that the knees don't splay open, right? So it's all chain reactions. It's always starting from the ground and then lifting up from that place. One more inhale, and then exhale, release the bind and roll yourself down and pause at the bottom. And then just move your feet a little bit wider and your knees to touch. Pause for a moment here. You can give yourself a little windshield wiper, shifting of your shins from side to side. And then slowly and gently hug your knees into your chest, little rock from side to side. Great. So from here, we're going to move into thread the eye of the needle, this kind of figure four shape, this hip stretch. So you're going to bring your right ankle on top of your left knee. And truly, just be mindful of, that actually happening. Maybe your ankle wants to get more towards your hip, or maybe it wants to be past your knee. Truly get your ankle on top of your knee. And the right knee is opening to the side. And then you could just gently push the right thigh away from you with your right hand, or you could bring your right hand between your legs, meet it with your left hand behind your left thigh, and gently pull your left thigh towards you. So the left knee stays like in alignment with your left hip in the sense that it's not opening or like moving towards the center line, right? It stays in that same plane. The right ankle stays on top of the left knee. And then the right knee is moving away from you energetically to open up your right hip. Another thing here is that you want to try to keep your hips in alignment. So notice if probably the right hip kind of wants to like hike up toward your right shoulder. So you want to think about keeping your hips in alignment like we did in like our low lunge and our forward fold earlier, right? Keeping your hips in alignment to ultimately find more space. And then you'll release from that, hug your knees into your chest, tap your feet to the floor so you can move your hips to the right 2 inches, and then roll your knees over to the left. So the reason why we moved our hips over to the right 2 inches is so now that when you look down at your hips are in alignment with your shoulders, with like your center chest. If we didn't do that, then our hips would be over to the left, right? And our spine would be like a diagonal line. So hips to the right, hips staying in alignment with your shoulders, and then look at your knees. Try to have your knees in alignment with your hips, knees on top of one another, and then your ankles in alignment with your knees and your ankles on top of one another. And then we are revolving the chest open to the right. And then we're here for a couple of long breaths. You're reaching your right arm straight to the right, that right wrist in alignment with your right shoulder head. So there's all these kind of like perfect lines happening in your body. Another breath here in your twist. And then you'll slowly come back through center. You'll have to move your hips back to center. And then move your hips to the left, like 2 inches. And then roll your knees over to the right. So you want your hips in alignment with like your center chest. The knees in alignment with the hips, the heels in alignment with the knees. And then the hips stacking, the knees stacking, the ankles stacking, right? And then you're revolving your chest open to the left. Left wrist in alignment with your left shoulder head. Also notice what's going on with like your head and your neck. Can you keep your neck in alignment with your spine? even though you could be gazing over to the left wall. So you get a little bit of a twist in your neck, but notice if it's like moving closer towards the left edge of your mat, the right edge of your mat. And then you'll slowly come back through center. You'll have to move your hips back to center and then hug your knees into your chest and then come into a happy baby pose. So you could grab hold of your outer shins, especially if you live in a more stiff and sturdy body, that'll probably be more accessible to you. You could also grab outer ankles, maybe outer feet, any of those are fine. But we're trying to work the ankles stacking over the knees, so that alignment there. Ankle over the knees, and you're pulling your ankles and the knees down to the floor. And then we're hanging out here for a couple of long breaths. Nice stretch for the low back, inner thighs, outer hips. And then you'll hug your knees back into your chest. One last squeeze. And then release your legs long in Savasana. Allow the feet to splay open. Have your arms on either side of you with your palms facing up. It might feel nice to give yourself one last long inhale. And a big exhale. So a big part of our practice is svadhyaya, which means self-study. So allowing the practice, every practice to be, you're so engulfed, you're so curious about the movements that you're making and how you're holding your body in space, right? Like the alignment of your joints and your bones, that turns into an actual meditation. And really, that is the biggest key of the practice. That's our aim, is to become more aware of ourselves so that we can move towards a more healing place, a strong, bountiful place. You can stay here, rest, take in the practice as long as you'd like. Thank you for practicing. Namaste.